Well, it's official. Michigan is going 12-0 in 2022. Okay, probably not. But they did just release their schedule for 2022, the revised schedule, because they had Michigan playing at Michigan State again. So that would be 2 years in a row, and that makes no sense. So I have the revised schedule here. Let's take a look at it. The path to 12-0 starts with Colorado State. Colorado State went 3-9 in 2021, including ending the season on a 6-game losing streak. So I like Michigan's chances in the opener. Michigan coming off a full offseason after getting destroyed by Georgia in the Orange Bowl. I think they're going to be ready for game 1 of 2022. Second game on the schedule is the University of Hawaii. Hot off the press, Hawaii's coach Todd Graham is resigning amid claims of verbal abuse by players. I have a feeling that Michigan will probably coast in the second game of the season, as Hawaii travels 9 billion miles to play in Ann Arbor. What I and most other Michigan fans are probably most excited to see in these first couple games is who's going to play quarterback. It's likely that Michigan's going to have a true 2-quarterback battle for the job, but I would be surprised if J.J. McCarthy is not the starter game 1. Michigan stays at home in week 3 to play UConn, who is terrible at football and always has been pretty terrible at football. They used to at least be able to rely on their basketball team for something good from the school, but I don't think they're that great anymore either. UConn went 1-11 last year. Their only win was a 21-15 thriller against Yale. When people mention UConn, though, I have flashbacks to the Brady Hoke era and the near loss that occurred back then. Delightful memories. Now you're noticing a theme here, as the first 3 games have been home games for Michigan. Well, that continues into week 4, which is the first conference game against Maryland. Remember the whole feud, Mike Locksley, Josh Gaddis, who's the better offensive coach? I think that one was pretty much resolved last year. Maryland's a hard team to figure out. They pretty much got blown out by most good teams that they played, but then they beat Virginia Tech 54-10 in the Pinstripe Bowl. I didn't watch that game because obviously there's probably like 17 people who did, so I couldn't tell you. Were their starters sitting out? I don't know. How did the game go? Couldn't tell you. October 1st, 2022, first road game for Michigan at Iowa, Kinnick Stadium, the revenge tour for the Hawkeyes. Who knows? Anything can happen at Kinnick, as we've seen in the past. But I really don't see Michigan losing to Iowa. Is Michigan losing some key pieces on defense? Absolutely. And also Hassan Haskins. But they still should have more talent on their team than Iowa has on their team. Iowa is the perennial 9-3, 10-2, sometimes 8-4. Kirk Ferentz has been the head coach for like 76 years or something. I do think it'll be close because it's pretty much always close at that stadium. But Michigan should win that too. Should be a 5-0 start for the Wolverines. Remember when Indiana was kind of good? What the hell happened? Injuries, I guess. A couple years ago, they beat the Wolverines pretty easily. And then last year, they lost to everybody. You have to take it one game at a time, of course, but I just don't think that Indiana is the team to be feared that everybody thought. Like, people were picking them to finish like second, third in the East last year. Unless Michigan turns the ball over like crazy or something, that one should be a win too. Then Michigan gets Penn State at home. How amazing was the finish of the Penn State game last season? I thought it was a pivotal win for this Michigan team going forward. And despite that loss, James Franklin got a massive contract, and now Penn State comes to the big house. The way this series had gone, it was usually the home team wins. For the most part, since Harbaugh and Franklin have been there, it's been like the home team wins. It's usually like by a good margin too. Last year that changed when Michigan won at Penn State. Will it change this year when Penn State comes to the big house? I don't think so. I know Penn State's recruiting well, but I just don't see them winning at the big house. By my count, that puts Michigan up to 7-0. And next up, a bye week. A bye week before the Spartans. Yeah, there's going to be some buzz before that game. It's entirely possible that Michigan could have a letdown or two before that game gets here, but I have a feeling they're going to be undefeated. And I haven't looked at Michigan State's schedule too, but you know, they're better than they've been the last couple of years. And obviously they beat Michigan last year. But Kenneth Walker leaving, I feel like is a bigger deal than any Michigan player leaving. I feel like him leaving is going to have a bigger impact on their team because without Kenneth Walker last year, How many wins would the Spartans really have? This is the biggest game for Michigan in 2022. I know that Ohio State is the biggest rivalry, and it's always technically the biggest game, but Michigan needs to win this game more than they need to win any other. They need to beat the Spartans in 2022 because all the Tuck coming talk, he hasn't lost to Harbaugh yet, and all that. It would just be nice to annihilate Michigan State. It's another home game, so that's good. Michigan gets 8 home games in 2022. People are griping about that because of course they are, because they always gripe about everything. Honestly though, I don't expect anything except frustration in this game against Michigan State because that's typically what we get. I think you can probably think of a couple moments in recent years that have been extremely frustrating. I feel like the players are going to be hungry for a win against Michigan State like they were last year against the Buckeyes. How about the Rutgers game in 2021, huh? That was fun, wasn't it? Looked like Michigan was coasting to a win, and then the second half happened and they could do absolutely nothing, and it really felt like, oh my god, they might lose this game. And then they came out with a win. So that was neat. The last couple of games against Rutgers have been really fun. And I'm being sarcastic, of course, in case you can't pick up on that. But going to Rutgers in 2022, is this a game that Michigan could lose? I guess theoretically, it could be a close game, but I mean, this isn't the terrible Rutgers teams of the past. Cough, cough, Brady Hoke era reference again, cough. But Michigan has no reason to ever lose to Rutgers. Then back to the big house for Nebraska. Scott Frost, how long are they going to let him coach and lose games there? I guess we'll find out. I don't think that he's as bad of a coach as their record shows. Obviously, they've been in close games, a ton of close games, especially last year. So this could be one of those sneaky games for Michigan. Adrian Martinez is gone. He transferred to Kansas State, so that's something different, I guess. I feel like they've had a quarterback named Martinez for the last decade in Nebraska. Scott Frost will figure out a way to lose this one, and Michigan will go to 10-0. With Illinois coming to town. I mean, do I really even need to say anything? It's Illinois. Illinois hasn't been relevant in, I don't know how many decades. They did have that close game with Michigan back in the Rich Rod era, the basketball score one. It's kind of a fun game, but also really depressing. A lot of good defense being played those few years. That wasn't frustrating at all. So most people would say it's unlikely, but I think there's actually a good chance that Michigan goes into Ohio State undefeated, which is kind of crazy to say out loud, but it could happen. My guess is that Michigan will probably be 10-1 going into that game with a loss somewhere along the way in a game where JJ has some turnovers or they just play poorly in one of the games. I just really hope it's not Michigan State. Could be at Iowa, one of those tricky early season road games, first road game. Michigan might not be able to generate as much pressure with Hutchinson and Ojabo both gone. Who knows? But it's possible that they're undefeated going to Columbus. Do I think that Michigan will beat Ohio State at Ohio State? I do not. I think there's a great chance it could happen, but I don't expect it to happen. I mean, look, Ohio State's talent level overall is superior. It's a home game for them. They're coming off the loss from last year. It's just a recipe for Michigan to not win. But you never know. The rivalry's restored, and anything could happen. Hopefully Michigan's back in Indianapolis again in that first weekend in December, but I'm not going to expect it. I'm going to keep my expectations tempered because as a Michigan fan, that's what I've learned to do for the last 20 years or so. When the season gets a little bit closer, I'll probably do more of a deep dive on each game leading up to the season. Right now, I just wanted to give kind of a quick look since they released this revised schedule and get my initial take. What do you guys think? What do you think Michigan's record will be? Who do you think they'll lose to, if anyone? Is it going to be 12-0? We going back to Indianapolis? Let me know down in the comments what you think. And also let me know if you agree that this is the play that changed the Jim Harbaugh era at Michigan. Have a great day. Go Blue.